what I believe is your thoughts become your actions and your actions become your reality. And when you look at it chronologically in that way, thoughts, action, then reality, it gives you the power to change your thoughts, because then your thoughts will change your actions and your actions will change your reality, as opposed to your reality controls your thoughts become your actions, and then your actions become your reality. One you have control and the other one you don't. Welcome back to the Butterfly Season podcast. I am excited to be here and to be back with you guys again for another episode. This one is near and dear to my heart. It's about high vibes, and some of you listening may have seen like that video of this gal talking about like low vibrational food and all of this stuff. And it's such a, I guess, like woo-woo type of concept, but really scientifically, like I mean this. I just call it high vibes only because like for me, it gets me in a great mood. So if you aren't entirely like woo-woo and you feel like this might turn you off by me calling this high vibes only, trust me, I will break down like a little bit of science behind it and why you want to live like a high vibes only life. So really what I mean by high vibes only is creating high vibes and maintaining them. So creating in substitute of high vibes would be like a positive mood and maintaining it. And when we talk about like vibration or where that even comes from, like high vibes, just think like everything is energy, right? Like literally scientifically, every single thing is energy, just like vibrating. And when I mean high vibes only, I mean creating like the energy or creating the positive mindset around the stuff that you're doing, and why that practice is so important to refine over time, because your circumstances around you can and will often alter your vibration, if you will, but your positive mindset. And so if we take it a little bit further, what I believe is your thoughts become your actions and your actions become your reality. And when you look at it chronologically in that way, thoughts, action, then reality, it gives you the power to change your thoughts, because then your thoughts will change your actions and your actions will change your reality, as opposed to your reality controls your thoughts become your actions, and then your actions become your reality. One you have control and the other one you don't. And so with the high vibes only like mantra that I've created, it is a practice to show you that like your energy, your mindset can open you up to opportunities. It's less of limiting belief, right? Like when you're thinking of solutions instead of problems, it shows the possibility of like what can actually be. And in relation to butterfly season, cocoon season, having a high vibes only mentality, a positive mentality, gets you out of cocoon season quicker, right? Because we're not stuck in our feelings. We're not just being negative. We're not looking for solutions. Or when you're in that mindset, you're not looking for solutions. And so by practicing this, we will get out of the cocoon season quicker, at least for some things that you have to work through. And so we're just going to talk about like how to change your mind in a high vibrational way. Now, the reason why I came up with this was because I realized that my energy was actually holding me back. And it came out of me asking myself two questions. And the first one was, how would I feel if God placed more on me, within me, than I realized? Like, how would I feel if I was living up to like this potential, but God had a potential of so much more planned for me, and I just like ruined that by like a negative ass attitude, right? And the second truth was like, how would I feel if this was true, that I likely settled for the life that I'm living now? Like, how would you feel if you settled for the life that you were living now, and if God had more, he placed more within you than you're actually realizing at this point? And it made me think, well, how can I make sure that I'm maximizing on all that God has put me on this planet for? And what it came down to for me was energy, literally, like my mindset and how I'm showing up in the world. And I feel like it's easy for us to say like, oh, do you have a positive mindset? Think about the good and all of the things. But when life is hard, it's like, it's harder. And that's what this practice is. But there are other times too where it isn't harder. Life isn't necessarily harder. And these times is when especially you need to have like HVO mindset. And so some of those feelings might be like, I'm just in a mood today. And you don't really know why. Like you're in a bad mood. My husband will be like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. But like, or nothing, right? Like in a highly combative tone. And truly nothing might be wrong and you're just in a mood. But the problem with that is that you are accepting that it's fine to be in that mood and you're just staying in that mood as opposed to taking a more active approach in your energy or in your mindset. And that is, why am I in this mood? If I don't know, if there isn't really anything behind it, or if I've let something so small get me here, how can I course correct? Another one is like, you're tired. Typically when I'm tired, I can get pretty grumpy, right? And then I'm like miserable to be around, or I like woke up feeling off, or you just like have had a bad day, like a series of unfortunate events have happened and things haven't gone as planned and you're just in a really bad mood. And so this is why I created HVO, because it allows you to take more control over your life and set a new baseline for you. So the baseline is important because you adapt to whatever baseline you're at. So if you're always in a bad mood, your new level of bad is going to continue to get lower and lower because your baseline has become, I'm just like regularly in a bad mood, or I'm regularly fighting with my partner or a friend, or I'm regularly irritated. Now your tolerance for irritation becomes lower, right? Like you have less tolerance, you're more highly agitated. And the same is true in the opposite. As I began to practice what I call HVO, I realized that I've been building up a sensitivity to negativity by constantly being in the frame of mind that like, I'm in charge of my energy. I will always have good energy despite my circumstance and know that everything is working for my good, despite how it may feel right now in this reality. I develop a strong sensitivity for negativity, and now my tolerance for negativity increasingly becomes lower and lower and lower and lower, and I can spot it much quicker and I can course correct much quicker. And so that doesn't mean that like, you know, the more positive you are, the more perfect your life will be. It just means that you're now taking control over how you react to things. And so this practice is important, to me at least, because the things that you're doing daily are absolutely vital to fulfilling the potential and purpose that God's created you to be. And so you want to maximize on that potential and purpose. And for me, like having a positive mindset, positive attitude throughout it all, it's not easy, but having that is important because I want to, you know, live up to the potential of what I feel God has placed for me. And so how to create your own HVO, here's how you do it. I like to separate it into 3. So the first thing is like, what can you do to make you feel good? It's really simple, you guys, I swear. What can you do to make you feel good despite outside factors? And this may be dependent upon the time of day, because for me, what I started to realize was like, I can make myself feel really good in the morning by opening up every window in the house, getting fresh air in, and then saging the house, practicing gratitude, expressing what I'm thankful for that day. And that puts me in like doing my morning routine. So like vitamins, protein shake, whatever it is, exercise that morning, that puts me in a high ass vibe. Like literally, I'm just like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I feel like I can tackle the day. And then over time, what I realized was like, okay, like around 2:00, that's starting to wear off. Like the buzz that I created in the morning is not like sustainable for afternoon. And so that's the next question is like, now what could you do to insert in your midday routine that makes you feel good? Like, what is that thing? And then you'll create a buzz, and then you'll realize like come nighttime starts to wear off. And so I want you guys to ask yourself what that might look like. For me, midday looks like shutting my stuff off for a second. Like if that's eating my lunch, if that's like if I'm working, if that's like going out to eat lunch or even meeting with somebody for coffee, that gets me in a great mood, especially when it's like not about work and it's just like connecting with someone. That puts me in such a beautiful mood that I'm like, I might do that to lift me up midday. And if it's irrespective of people, another thing that makes me feel great is like literally going outside and taking like a really big breath of air, feeling the air in my lungs and like facing the sun makes me feel great. If I'm ever in the car, I'll roll my windows down, do the same thing and keep breathing until I start to feel like better, right? I start to express gratitude for like what I'm thankful for that day, what I'm grateful for, what like hard things am I grateful for because what did I learn from that? And I literally practice that throughout the day to keep me like in a really positive frame of mind. And so I want you guys to think about and practice what those things might be for you. I didn't realize that the window opening, getting fresh air in, putting like some fans on to get the wind kind of distributing within the house was something that really got me in a great mood until I stopped doing it. And I was like, whoa, there was something I would do every morning and I felt like, I'm opening the windows, like the blinds, but really it was opening the windows that was like a game changer for me. Like if that was the first thing that I did was get fresh air in the morning, like that made me feel good, as well as saging the house. And so I want you guys to take the time to think about what are the things that can get you into HBO morning, midday, and at night. At night, what I do is I read my value statement. And so my value statement, I'm going to go down a little bit of a value statement rabbit hole. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, the exercise is I write down all of my core values. And it's, I'm literally going to pull it out of my phone and read it to you. But like one was healthy boundaries. Another one is like a great wife. One is God-fearing. And I write them all out. And then I cross-reference each one of them to say, are any of these conflicting? And what might look like conflicting is like, if you're like, I love to have a good time and party. Well, if your partying includes like getting so wasted you can't do anything the next day. And then another core value is like, I'm a hard worker. If your partying ever gets in the way of you being a hard worker, then those two core values cannot coexist because one is like limiting the other. And so a few of mine are balanced relationships, healthy boundaries, being grateful, being happy, being creative. And so within that, I create sentences around each one of those values. So in the form of like what I want and what I'm creating. So I want balanced relationships, right? Like that's one. I want healthy boundaries. I want to be grateful. I want to be happy. I want to be creative. So from there, now I rephrase that to I have and unpack what it is that I'm really craving in there. So with my balanced relationships, I have balanced relationships. And what was important for me was, if you've heard the episode with Lizzie on codependency, listen to it because it's so good if you haven't. But if you have, then you know that codependency in my life is something that I'm working on. And so it's important to me to have balanced relationships. And so my first statement is I have balanced relationships, both professional and personal, that are an equal energy exchange. And that's me unpacking that core value of mine. So think about your core values and unpack them in the form of I have, I am, right? Because this is what I read to myself every night. I have balanced relationships, both personal and professional, that are equal energy exchanges. I am conscious of and maintain healthy boundaries so that all of my values beautifully coexist and complement one another. I am full of gratitude and eternally grateful for all things, both good and bad, because everything is working for my highest good. I have so many more in here, but I read that to myself every night before bed because it just serves as a reminder of the person that I am, that I want to be, and that I want to create for my future. And you write all your core values down, and then you create a statement around that. So I read that to myself every night. And then another thing that I do is I look at my vision board every night. And that also gets me super excited. And it also is just like training my mind, my subconscious, just to think like, this is what's possible for you, right? Like, don't get lost in the day-to-day and the shuffle of like life being hard or work being hard or the day being exhausting or tiring. It's just a reminder to kind of reset everything for me. And so that's what I do in the morning. That's what I do. The morning is sage. Midday is like literally deep breaths of just like quiet and fresh air. And in the nighttime, it's my value statement and my vision boards. They're like virtual. I did them in Visco. You can do them in Canva. They're just like, I pulled imagery that means something to me. So instead of like from a magazine, I'm literally Googling the exact thing or Pinteresting it, putting them together in different categories. So I have the same categories that I talk about when in my New Year's planning podcast episode. If you haven't listened to that one, go listen to it. But each category of my life has its own mood board. So I have a category for finance. I have a category for family. I have a category for faith. I have a category for health, literally visually, so that I can like look at those every day, remind myself of who I am, who I was, and who I want to continue to show up or create. So those are the things that I do to keep me HVO. And if you want to borrow them and try them on for size, go ahead, see how they fit. I want this to be a great HVO experience for you, and I do not mind sharing. And if you do it, post on Instagram, tag me. I would love to share in that excitement with you about creating a life that you deserve, because you do. And as we begin to close out for today, this was a short one, but it's super impactful. I want you to also take note, once you create the things that keep you HVO, I want you to take note of how your life begins to change. A perfect example for me, here's some ways that I saw my life change. And this happened literally just yesterday. My husband and I went to go get breakfast, and we were talking about what we were going to eat for breakfast. And I really wanted these certain pancakes and shrimp and grits from this breakfast spot. Like, nobody can create it like that. And so I was like, this is what I want. And he was like, okay, well, it's Sunday. And not only is it Sunday, but it's 12. So by the time when we get there, we're probably not going to be home until after 2, because the lines are always so long. This place is like popping every weekend. And so I'm like thinking in my mind, okay, like HVO, like I'm not going to accept that as my reality. It's going to be great vibes. I'm going to get in quick. I'm going to get my food. They're not going to sell out, because sometimes they sell out of the shrimp and grits. They're not going to sell out, and it's going to be great. Like that is the intention that I'm choosing. So let's just try it out. I didn't say this to my husband yet. I was just like, okay, like if the wait gets past 30 minutes, we'll go somewhere else. And he was like, okay. So we go there, you guys, we pull up. The parking lot is so packed. Like, you could barely even drive in the parking lot. We had to park across the street just to get there. And I'm just like, okay, like high vibes, like it's fine, it's positive. Like, it's going to be great. It's going to be so quick. We're going to get in fast. It's just 2 of us after all. They're probably big parties. And so we walk up, and there's like a line out the door just to talk to the host, just to like put their name in for the host. And so I could see like my husband's like he's just not looking optimistic. He's not irritated, but he's just not looking like he's confident that we're going to get in quick. And then everyone in line, they look as if they're like in a bad mood, because it was just chaos. Like, everyone just like, I don't know if you're listening and you've worked in service. I worked in breakfast, and like I worked in breakfast, I worked in lunch, and I've also worked at a bar. And breakfast people are the grumpiest people. Like, especially if you mess up someone's breakfast, or so many modifications. Anyway, so like people didn't look like they were in a great mood. The host looked frazzled. Like, it was just a lot going on. And so we put our names down. She's like, it's going to be 90 minutes. I'm like, I look at my husband. I'm like, I look inside and I see there's a bar, and I'm like, oh, like, is the bar open seating? She's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, there will be, people will get up and move. And I know it. And I tell my husband, if we can't find a bar seat in 20 minutes, we'll go. And I look over, what do you know? 2 empty bar seats. And I'm like, come on, let's go sit. So it was beautiful. But I know that if I showed up and I matched the energy in that room or in that area, if I showed up with a negative mindset, I wouldn't even have seen those bar stools, because I would have just been looking at how packed it is, how chaotic it is, how long this line is, how frustrated everyone looks. And as opposed to, I'm going to get my seat and I know it's going to be here. I just need to look for it. And sure enough, we were in and out in an hour after having ate and everything. Like, people were just so kind. It was literally an HBO experience, but honestly, if it wasn't for me correcting my mindset around it, I would not have had that experience. And so I say that to say, watch things change in your life. Watch you begin to also develop a sensitivity to negativity. Like, literally, even people who are like high strung and talking and in like a negative way, even if it's not combative, but you can just tell they've been through something. I'm just like, hey, like, are you doing okay? Like, do you want a break? How can I support you? Right? Because I'm just like, I don't want to waste my energy on that. And not from a holier and thou way, but from a like, let's bring the collective energy that I'm around like up, like let people around me can leave better than they came in and vice versa. And so watch you see your sensitivity to negativity start to get refined. Watch you realize how much more responsible you are for your own energy and no one else's. And if that is triggering, it's because for me, it's not because. For me, when that triggered me, it was because I didn't want to take full responsibility for my energy. I wanted it to be from something else, someone else that said something to me that put me in this bad mood. It's not my fault. It's their fault that they did that to me, but it's my fault and how I reacted to that. And so watch you develop this sensitivity. Watch these opportunities begin to come to you more. Watch like life just open up in a much more beautiful way than you would have seen. And that, my friends, is HBO. It's a small practice, a small mantra, if you will, with a few action items that change the trajectory of your life. Your life will literally change. Mine has. It's not easy. Don't get me wrong. There are times where it's really hard for me to get out of that negative feeling, even if nothing's wrong. But if you continue to practice gratitude and continue to practice as many times as you need until you feel great, your HBO action items, you will see your life change. I promise you. So that's it for today. Short, sweet, to the point, HV freaking O. Tag me on Instagram if you found value in this episode. Post it, share it. If you're doing anything HBO, saging, opening up windows, post it, tag me. I want to be in HBO with you guys. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time.